There is a moment in every life when the world becomes too heavy. The eyes close, not from sleep, but from the weight of sorrow. The hands, once reaching outward, fall to the lap in stillness. And from deep within the ribs, behind breath and bone, a silent question rises. Is anyone out there? In the face of death, heartbreak, injustice or despair, we cry, not always aloud, but the soul cries. For help, for rescue, for something bigger than us to see us, to hold us, to save us. This is not weakness. This is humanity. The ache for a parent we cannot name. The yearning for meaning when all seems lost. The desire to believe that someone somewhere is listening. So we lift our eyes to the sky. We whisper into the darkness. We fold our palms and kneel, sometimes with words, sometimes only with tears. This for many is prayer. But then there is a tradition, quiet, ancient, unmoving, that does not follow this path, Buddhism, and the question inevitably comes, why don't Buddhists pray to a God? Not in protest, not in defiance, not in atheism, but in a silence that seems to echo a different knowing. Let us not answer too quickly. Let us not reduce a tradition so deep to simple labels. Let us instead wander slowly through this forest of thought, because the truth is not at the surface. It waits at the center, and the journey there begins, always, with a pause. There is something comforting about the idea of God as a rescuer, a being of light, above and beyond, who sees our struggle and intervenes, who has a will and a plan and a love vast enough to embrace all pain. And this idea has guided countless hearts through the darkest nights. But Buddhism, in its essence, asks a different question. What if the one who saves you? What if suffering is not punishment, not the test of a divine mind, but the natural unfolding of cause and effect? What if the universe is not a courtroom, but a mirror? What if there is no hand above the clouds, pulling strings, rewarding prayers, or demanding faith? Not because there is nothing sacred, but because the sacred is not separate, because what we are looking for has never been outside us. To walk the Buddhist path is not to reject the divine. It is to see the divine in a different way, not as a person, not as a father, not as a ruler of world, but as truth itself. The truth that everything changes. The truth that all things arise from conditions. The truth that we suffer because we cling. And the truth that liberation is possible, not through worship, but through awareness, through the quiet courage to look directly at life, without flinching, without fantasy, without escape. And in that looking, to see clearly the nature of self, the illusions of permanence, the cycle of craving and becoming. This is not easy. This is not comforting in the way prayer often is. But it is honest. And in honesty, there is freedom. Imagine you are in a dream. Everything feels real. The sights, the people, the fear. And in the dream, you suffer. You beg for help. But no one comes. Then, suddenly, you wake up. And in the waking you realize there was never anyone to rescue you. But also, you never needed rescue, because you were dreaming. This is how the Buddha saw the world, not as a place needing divine intervention, but as a place we misunderstand, a place of illusion, not of sin. And so instead of worshipping a god, he taught awakening, not to another world, but to this one, as it is. In many traditions, God is the giver of life. In Buddhism, life gives rise to itself, through karma, through the chain of causes and conditions, through the dance of form and emptiness, birth and death, breath and cessation. There is no creator, not because creation is denied, but because creation is endless. Not a single act in the past, but a moment-by-moment arising of everything. You, me, the wind, the thoughts, the pain, the laughter, all of it co-arising. interwoven, empty of independent self, full of presence. And this changes the question. It shifts the focus from who made this to what is this, from why is this happening to me to how am I participating in this, from please save me to please help me see. This is not to say that Buddhists do not feel devotion. They bow, they chant, they light incense before images of the Buddha, but not to ask for miracles, not to curry favor. They bow to awaken reverence in themselves. They chant to calm the mind and open the heart. They light incense as a reminder, all things, like smoke, rise and fade. The Buddha is not a god. He is a mirror, a finger pointing to the moon, a sign that a human being, just like you, can wake up, that suffering is not the end of the story, and that no savior is needed for you to be free, only presence, only see, only the gentle, steady return to what is true. And what is true? That everything we seek, peace, safety, belonging, meaning, does not live in the sky. It lives in the breath, in the space between thoughts, in the silence beneath the noise. It lives in the patient watching of the mind, in the softening of resistance, in the smile of compassion, first to ourselves, then to the world. We were never alone. We were simply looking outward and missing what had always been here, like a fish asking where the water is, like a flame wondering where the fire went, like a soul crying into the void, not realizing the void is listening, because it is us, and we are it. Buddhism does not say there is no divine. It says the divine is not elsewhere. It is not a being, but being itself. It is not a ruler, but the law of how things unfold. Not someone to worship, but something to realize. And in that realization, a new kind of reverence arises. Not for a person, but for the moment, for the now, for the fragile miracle of existing at all. This reverence is not loud. It does not demand attention. It does not threaten or promise. It simply bows to the falling leaf, to the breath rising, to the tears and the laughter and the stillness in between. It bows because everything is sacred when truly seen, and nothing is left out. But we forget. Not once, not twice, but 1,000 times a day. We forget the stillness. We forget the breath. We forget that we are not what we think. That we are not the voice in our heads, shouting with fear or longing. And so, in forgetting, we suffer. Not because a God is punishing us, not because we are flawed, but because we are asleep. This is what the Buddha saw beneath the Bodhi tree in the hush of dawn. Not a vision of angels, not a revelation from above, but the ending of confusion. He saw that suffering has a cause, and that anything with a cause can end. He saw that our pain is not eternal, it is constructed by craving, by clinging, by trying to make permanent what cannot be held. Love, health, youth, certainty, control, even identity itself, all of it, sand slipping through the fingers, and yet we grasp and we call it prayer, we call it hope. But the hand that clutches cannot be open, and an open hand is all that awakening requires. So the Buddhist path does not ask you to believe in God. It asks you to notice your grasping, to notice the stories, to notice the fear behind the stories, and then to let go. Not once, but again and again, to sit with breath when the mind screams, to return to the body when the past tries to drag you back, to soften when everything in you wants to harden. This is the prayerless prayer, a surrender, not to someone, but to what is. It is not the seeking of a rescuer. It is the falling away of the need to be rescued. And that is perhaps the greatest miracle of all. Imagine this. A child wakes in the night, crying from a nightmare. She calls for her mother, her father, someone, anyone to hold her. But what if no one comes? What if no one hears? It is terrifying, yes. But maybe in time her eyes adjust to the dark. Maybe she learns to sit with the fear, to breathe, to see that the monsters were shadows, not truths. And in the morning she is not weaker for having faced the night alone. She is wiser, stronger, awake. This is not abandonment. This is maturity. This is the inner path Buddhism offers. Not a cry upward, but a settling inward. Not a God to deliver you from the storm, but a mind that learns to watch the clouds pass without fear. Of course, we long to be seen. We long for a voice in the sky to say, "You are loved. You are." But Buddhism whispers something quieter. You are love itself. You are already held by reality. You matter because you are alive. No need to earn it. No need to be chosen. No need to believe. Just breathe. Just see. And in the seeing, in the sheer act of presence, the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. What we thought was a void is full. What we thought was silence is singing. What we thought was emptiness is everything. Nothing stays. You know this, not because someone told you, but because life has shown you. The seasons shift. The face in the mirror changes. The ones you love, even the ones who once felt like air. They come, they go. Moments dissolve like footprints in water. Even joy, when clung to, turns to sorrow. Even sorrow, when seen clearly, begins to soften. This is impermanence, not a punishment, not a tragedy, a law, a truth that holds all things together, because it is the nature of all things to come together and fall apart. And if we can stop fighting that, even for a moment, something extraordinary happens. Peace, not the peace of getting what we want, the peace of no longer needing it. But the mind resists, doesn't it? It wants control. It wants permanence. It wants justice. If I am good, life should reward me. If I suffer, someone must be blamed. If I pray, someone should answer. And here, Buddhism makes another quiet turn. It introduces not a God with a will, but karma. Not fate. Not divine judgment. Not cosmic bookkeeping. Karma is simpler than that. Karma means everything has a consequence. Every thought, every word, every action. Not because someone is watching, but because we are woven into the fabric of reality. Throw a pebble in the pond, and ripples form. Act with greed or cruelty, and suffering grows. Act with clarity, with compassion, and peace follows, like a shadow that never leaves. No one grants this. No one withholds it. It is law, not lord, and it places the responsibility and the freedom back where it has always been, within. This can be terrifying, because there's no one to blame, no one to bargain with, no one to rescue us from the results of our own choices. But it is also liberating, because there's no ceiling, no judgment from above, no original sin, no eternal damnation, no gatekeeper at the edge of the world. Only this, you, your mind, your heart, this moment. And from here, anything can change. So why don't Buddhists pray to a God? Because the answers are not in the heavens. They are in the suffering itself, in the clinging, in the not seeing, in the forgetting. The goal is not to be saved, but to wake up, to see that the fire is not out there, waiting to burn you. The fire is inside, lit by craving, fed by illusion. And you, yes you, have the water, not in some distant lifetime. Now, with the next breath, with the next choice, with the willingness to stop running and turn inward. Not to find God, but to find what you are when the need for God dissolves. Who are you? This question, so simple, unravels everything. You say your name, but is that you? You recall your past, but is memory the same as being? You point to your thoughts, your body, your emotions. But each of these changes, they arise, shift, vanish. So who then is the you that stays? Who suffers? Who hopes? Who prays? Buddhism does not answer with a doctrine. It answers with a mirror. Look, watch, observe the one who says, watch it shift, contract, expand, vanish, in sleep, reappear, with pain. You will not find a fixed self, not because you do not exist, but because you do not exist in the way you think. You are not the thinker. You are not the thought. You are not the roles or the names or the stories. You are awareness itself, wide, open, clear. And when this is seen, truly seen, something radical happens. Suffering begins to loosen. Not because pain disappears, but because the one who holds it is no longer a prisoner. This is why there is no God to worship. Because there is no self to be saved. Because the very belief in a separate, permanent self is the root of suffering. This doesn't mean you are nothing. It means you are everything. Not in the grandiose egoic sense, but in the humble, liberating sense. You are not separate from anything. Not from the tree, or the wind, or the stranger's sorrow. You are the space in which all things arise. And in that space, there is peace. A peace beyond understanding. A peace that does not need permission or approval. A peace that doesn't arrive when the storm ends, but shines in the center of it. When we pray to a God, often we are asking to be chosen, to be forgiven, to be guided. But what if there is nothing to be chosen for, nothing to be forgiven for, nothing to be led to, except this moment? What if the guidance we seek is already here, waiting in the silence we fear, in the breath we ignore, in the body we rush past? What if divinity is not a figure but a field, not a person but a presence, not above but within? Would you still need to kneel, or would you simply need to stop? Stop moving, stop asking, stop becoming, and let yourself be. This is the quiet revolution of Buddhism. Not the rejection of God, but the rejection of separation. Not a denial of sacredness, but a seeing of sacredness in all things. A leap, a tear, a moment of stillness in the middle of your worst day. These are not less holy than a prayer. They are the prayer. And you, in your aloneness, in your struggle, in your breath, are already the answer you seek. So here we are, not at an ending, but at the quiet edge of knowing. You came with a question. Why don't Buddhists pray to a God? And perhaps the mind still wants a neat reply. But Buddhism isn't here to satisfy the mind. It's here to liberate it, to gently untangle the knots of seeking, to bring you back, not to belief, but to being. You see, in the stillness of this path, nothing is rejected. Not longing, not doubt, not even prayer. It's just that prayer, as we often know it, the reaching outward, the asking, the pleading, no longer has the same place. Because what we seek is not apart from us. Because the divine is not somewhere else, deciding who to save. It is right here, breathing through you as you, the sacred, is in the seeing. And when you see clearly, you stop needing to ask for what you already are. Imagine a candle in a dark room. You can cry to the night for light. You can beg. You can wait. Or you can strike a match. That is Buddhism. Not a faith in someone else's fire, but the recognition that your hands, your mind, your heart hold the spark. You are not here to be saved. You are here to awaken. And awakening is not given. It is discovered. Not by belief, but by looking deeply and honestly into the nature of all things, by letting go of the dream and stepping into what has always been real. There is no heaven to climb toward. There is only this moment, this breath, this astonishing miracle of now. No deity holds the key to your freedom, because there are no locks, only the illusion of chains, And when you stop running, when you sit, truly sit and meet yourself without turning away, something ancient opens, a silence that is not empty, but full of presence, full of awareness, full of peace. Not because all is perfect, but because all is seen. And in that seeing, in that radical luminous seeing, the need to pray, not because there's nothing sacred, but because everything is. So Buddhists do not pray to a god, because they are bowing to something even greater, to the unfolding of reality itself, to the interwoven nature of all things, to the truth that within you is the same light, the same silence, the same awakening that moved through the Buddha under the Bodhi tree. It is not elsewhere. It never was. It is here. It is this. It is you. And now, the words end, not with a conclusion, but with a breath. Let it rise. Let it fall. Let the stillness speak. Let the question dissolve. And may you remember, what you were seeking
was never far.
never separate, never lost, only waiting for you to stop searching and simply to pay